The twin suns of Alaris Prime were setting, painting the dusty sky in shades of orange and gold. The small town of Havenridge, built near the edge of a vast canyon, began to quiet down. Traders packed up their stalls, robots hummed as they cleaned the streets, and children ran back to their homes. In a small house on the far side of town lived Ethan, a single father and former soldier. He had retired from the Galactic Defense Forces years ago, choosing a peaceful life after losing too much to war. His days were now simple. He repaired old machines, helped neighbors, and spent every evening with his daughter, Lila, who was only 8 years old. Their home was filled with the sound of laughter, small projects, and the smell of warm bread. Lila often sat beside him at the workshop, asking endless questions about how wires connected and how engines hummed. Ethan would smile, his eyes tired but kind. "It's all about patience," he'd tell her. "Machines are like people. Treat them right and they'll work for you." One evening, as the wind picked up and the skies darkened, a thunderous sound broke through the calm. Ethan looked up. A bright streak of light tore across the sky, trailing smoke and sparks. The ground trembled as the object crashed somewhere beyond the ridge. Lila gasped. "Dad, was that a ship?" Ethan frowned, his soldier instincts returning for the first time in years. "Stay inside, Lila," he said, grabbing his old coat and a small scanner. "Lock the door until I come back." He moved quickly across the rocky field, his boots crunching against the dust. The smell of burned metal filled the air as he neared the crash site. Flames flickered around a twisted silver ship, sleek, elegant, and clearly not human-made. It had a symbol engraved near the hull, a golden circle with 3 stars, the royal crest of Virion, one of the most powerful alien empires in the galaxy. Ethan hesitated. The Virions were known for their strictness, their cold beauty, and their distrust of humans. But someone might be trapped inside. He climbed over the wreckage, shielding his face from the smoke. Inside the cracked cockpit, he saw movement, a faint glow. He pushed aside debris and froze. Lying there, half-conscious, was a young alien woman. Her skin shimmered faintly under the light, smooth like polished stone, and her eyes, half open, were silver with flecks of gold. Strange markings ran down her neck like living light. She was bleeding slightly and her breathing was shallow. Hey, you're all right," Ethan said softly, though he knew she might not understand his language. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'll get you out." He pulled her free carefully and carried her over his shoulder as the ship groaned and hissed behind them. The crash was loud enough to attract attention, so he moved quickly through the rocky valley back toward his home. The alien woman stirred slightly, whispering something weakly in her own tongue, a melodic sound that faded before he could understand. When Ethan reached his door, Lila ran to him. Her eyes widened when she saw who he carried. "Dad, she's an alien." "Yes," he said, setting the woman gently on the couch. "But she's hurt. We need to help her before we contact anyone." Lila nodded, her small hands trembling as she brought towels and water. Together, they cleaned the alien's wounds and bandaged her arm. Lila watched in awe as the strange golden veins under her skin seemed to pulse faintly with life. Hours passed before the woman opened her eyes fully. She blinked, confused, scanning the small, warm room. Her gaze settled on Ethan and Lila. "Where am I?" she asked slowly, her voice soft but strong. Ethan looked relieved she spoke standard galactic. "You're safe. You crashed near Havenridge. I found you in the wreckage." The woman looked down at her hands, then back at him. "You helped me?" "Of course," Ethan said simply. "You needed help." Her expression softened, though confusion still lingered. "Humans do not usually risk their lives for strangers. My guards told me many things about your kind." Ethan shrugged lightly. Maybe they didn't meet the right kind of humans. She stared at him for a long time, then whispered, "My name is Serene. I am the Princess of Virion." Lila's mouth fell open. "A princess?" Serene nodded weakly. "My ship was attacked by raiders on the border. I escaped alone, but the systems failed." She tried to sit up but winced in pain. Ethan steadied her gently. "Rest," he said. "You're safe here. No one will find you for now." Serene looked around the simple home, the soft lights, the small wooden toys scattered on the floor, the smell of bread still lingering. Everything was humble yet full of life. On the table sat a framed picture of Ethan, a woman, and a baby girl. She noticed the gentle sadness in his eyes when he saw the picture. "That is your mate?" she asked quietly. Ethan nodded slowly. "She passed away during the war. It's just me and Lila now." Serene looked at Lila, who smiled shyly back. The child offered her a cup of warm tea. "You can stay with us, Princess." Serene blinked in surprise. "You would shelter someone you do not know?" Lila tilted her head. "You looked scared. Dad says when someone's scared, you don't turn away." Something in Serene's heart trembled. In her world, people bowed, obeyed, and feared her. But here, a little human girl spoke to her as if she were just another person. That night, the three sat near the small heater as the wind howled outside. Lila soon fell asleep in Ethan's lap, clutching her toy starship. Ethan looked at Serene. "You should get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll see what's left of your ship. Maybe we can fix the power core." Serene nodded but did not move. She watched him instead, how he covered his daughter with a blanket, how gently he handled every small thing. There was something strange about this human. He did not treat her with fear or admiration. He was calm, steady, and kind. When Ethan stepped outside to check the sensors, Serene walked to the window. She stared at the night sky filled with stars. Her reflection looked back at her, alien, royal, powerful, and yet in this small human home, she felt something unfamiliar. She felt peace. For the first time in her life, she wasn't surrounded by guards or advisors. No one demanded anything of her. The air was warm, the silence gentle, and the smell of human food oddly comforting. She touched the window glass and whispered softly to herself, "Why do I feel safe here?" Outside, Ethan looked up at the stars, unaware of her words. He thought about how strange life could be. A man who once fought aliens now sheltering one in his home. But deep inside, something told him this meeting was not an accident. The wind carried the sound of distant thunder, and the faint glow of the burning wreck still flickered on the horizon. Somewhere above the clouds, alien scanners searched for their missing princess. But in that small human home, far from palaces and fleets, 3 lives had just crossed paths, and the galaxy itself would soon feel the ripple. Morning sunlight filtered through the small kitchen window, landing gently on the princess's face. For a moment, Princess Serene forgot she was far from her world. The smell of warm bread and something sweet filled the air. She blinked, sitting up slowly on the couch where she had rested through the night. In the next room, she could hear Lila's laughter and Ethan's calm voice giving small instructions. The sound was unfamiliar to her, a kind of warmth she rarely heard on her planet. On Virion, every morning began with strict routine: servants, commands, guards, and silence. Here there was no bowing or orders, only the sound of a small family beginning their day. Serene stood and walked quietly toward the voices. Ethan turned, holding a plate of bread. "Good morning, Princess," he said with a polite nod. Serene tilted her head slightly. "You do not have to call me that here." Ethan smiled a little. "All right, then." "Good morning, Serene." The princess looked around the kitchen. It was simple. Hand-built shelves, a small metal stove, and faded curtains, but everything seemed alive with care. Lila grinned up at her. "Dad made bread again. You should try it. It's not fancy, but it's really good." Serene hesitated, then accepted a small piece. The texture was soft and warm. When she tasted it, her eyes widened slightly. It was plain yet comforting. "It is pleasant," she said honestly. Lila laughed. "That means you like it." Ethan sat across from her, his hands wrapped around a cup of tea. He studied her quietly for a moment. "How are your wounds?" "They ache," she admitted, "but less than yesterday." "I owe you thanks. No debt between us," he said simply. "Helping someone in need is reason enough." His words were calm, but they carried a quiet strength that made Serene pause. On her world, every act of kindness was recorded, repaid, or used for status. But Ethan seemed to expect nothing from her. Not her title, not her power. After breakfast, Ethan led her outside. The desert wind was cooler in the morning. Beyond the house lay endless golden sand and the broken ridge where her ship had crashed. Together they walked in silence until they reached the wreck. The ship's silver hull still smoked faintly, its elegant design scarred by the crash. "I can fix part of it," Ethan said, scanning the damage. "But the power core is cracked. Without a replacement, it can't fly." Serene crouched beside him, her eyes focused on the exposed circuits. "I could try stabilizing the energy lines," she said. My people use liquid fusion instead of solid cells. Perhaps I can adapt it. Ethan glanced at her in surprise. You know how to do that? She gave a small smile. I studied engineering before I was chosen as heir. My tutor said it was unfitting for royalty, but I liked building things. Ethan chuckled softly. Then we might make a good team. They spent hours working together, sharing tools, testing circuits, and learning from one another. Serene was impressed by Ethan's patience. He never rushed or raised his voice even when things didn't work. When she made a mistake, he only smiled and said, "Try again. You'll get it right." For Serene, it was strange. On Virion, mistakes brought punishment or shame. Here they brought learning. She began to feel a quiet joy in their shared work. At midday, they rested under a large rock formation. Lila joined them, carrying a small container of food. "You two look tired," she said cheerfully. Serene accepted the offered water, watching the little girl. "You help your father often?" Lila nodded proudly. "All the time. He says teamwork makes everything better." Serene smiled faintly. "He is wise," Lila giggled. "He just doesn't like when I break his tools." Ethan gave a mock sigh and all three laughed. The sound echoed softly across the empty valley. As the sun began to lower, they returned home. Serene felt tired but lighter somehow. She found herself looking at Ethan differently, studying his quiet movements, his strong hands, his calm eyes. He wasn't like the soldiers or nobles she knew. There was no arrogance in him, only a steady sense of peace. That evening, as Ethan cooked dinner, Serene sat near the window again. She looked at the stars, remembering the stories her mother once told her. Virion royalty believed they were born from starlight, destined to rule. Yet now, sitting in a human's home, she wondered if destiny could also mean something simpler, like finding kindness where no one expected it. Ethan joined her with 2 cups of tea. "You're thinking a lot tonight," he said gently. Serene nodded. "I am remembering my world. It feels far away now." He looked out the window too. "Sometimes distance gives us space to see things clearly." She turned to him. "And what do you see when you look back at your past?" Ethan's face grew quiet. "War loss, but also hope. My wife believed that even in dark times, there's always someone worth saving." Serene listened, her eyes softening. "You lost her in battle?" He nodded. "Yes, I promised her I'd raise our daughter to see peace instead of fear." Serene lowered her gaze. "That is beautiful." For a long moment, neither spoke. The heater hummed softly. Lila was asleep again, her small toy starship clutched in her hands. Serene looked at the child, then at Ethan. "Your daughter is lucky," she said. "She has love around her. On my world, love is a rare word." Ethan smiled faintly. "It shouldn't be." Serene hesitated, then asked softly, "Do you not fear me?" "Should I?" He replied gently. "My people and yours. We do not trust each other. Some call humans dangerous." Ethan took a slow breath. "Every species has both danger and kindness. What matters is what we choose to show." His words stayed in her mind long after he left the room. Later that night, a sudden crash came from outside. The wind had knocked over one of the power units. The light flickered. Instantly, Serene stood to help. She rushed outside, the cold air biting at her skin. Ethan was already there, trying to stabilize the small generator. Sparks flew suddenly from a broken wire. Without thinking, she stepped forward. "Careful," Ethan called, but before she could react, the wire sparked again. He moved fast, pulling her away and shielding her with his body as a bright flash burst from the machine. They both fell to the ground. Serene gasped. Ethan's arm was burned slightly, but he ignored it. "Are you all right?" he asked quickly. She stared at him, eyes wide. You protected me." He smiled a little, even in pain. "Couldn't let you get hurt. You're my guest." Her chest tightened with an emotion she didn't understand. On Virion, no one had ever risked themselves for her. Guards followed orders because of her title, not because they cared. But this human, a single father with nothing to gain, had done it without hesitation. She reached for his arm, her hands glowing faintly as she used her energy to ease the burn. "You are reckless," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "But thank you." Ethan gave a small laugh. "I've been called worse." Back inside, she watched him as he wrapped the bandage carefully, still calm, still kind. Her heart felt heavy and light all at once. As the night grew quiet again, Serene couldn't sleep. She stood near the door, looking at the small home, the soft lights, the gentle sound of Lila's breathing. She pressed a hand to her chest. No palace had ever made her feel like this. No throne, no guard, no jewel had ever brought such calm to her heart. In the silence, she whispered to herself, "He makes me feel safe." She didn't yet understand the depth of those words, but the stars outside seemed to glow brighter, as if listening. And somewhere far above, on a royal ship searching the galaxy, the Queen of Virion was staring at a glowing screen that showed her daughter's fading signal. Her expression was sharp with worry. She didn't know yet that the place her daughter had crashed wasn't just a planet. It was the beginning of a bond that would soon change everything. For several quiet days, life in the small home carried a strange kind of peace. Princess Serene helped Ethan fix what was left of her ship, while Lila continued to bring laughter and color to every moment. The princess had begun to smile more often, even laugh softly when Lila told her stories about her school or drew funny pictures of aliens. Ethan watched all this quietly, still finding it hard to believe that the royal heir of Virion was living under his roof, sharing meals and helping fix machinery. He treated her with the same respect he would offer any person, no more, no less. That perhaps was what made her trust him. One morning, as the suns rose over the golden hills, Serene stood outside, her silver eyes catching the light. "It's strange," she said softly. "I used to think humans were reckless and loud. But your world feels peaceful." Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe peace just needs a little space to grow. Before Serene could answer, a low hum filled the air. Ethan frowned and looked up. The sky shimmered with bright blue lights. Lila ran out, pointing upward. "Dad, look!" In the distance, several large ships broke through the clouds, sleek and silver, moving in perfect formation. Serene's eyes widened. She recognized the design instantly. "Those are Virion royal ships," she whispered. "My mother's fleet." Ethan's calm expression faded into concern. "They found you." The ships descended fast, sending gusts of dust across the valley. Alarms from the town began to ring. People rushed into their homes as dozens of smaller craft hovered above the streets. Serene turned to Ethan. "They will see this as a scandal if they find me here. A princess of Virion living in a human's home, it will cause problems." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens, you're safe here. Don't forget that." Before she could reply, the door burst open as beams of blue light scanned the room from the outside. Then the doorway filled with figures, tall Virion guards in shining silver armor. They held energy spears, their eyes sharp and cold. "By order of the Virion Queen," one guard declared. "Step away from the princess." Serene moved forward quickly. "Stop, do not harm him. He is not a threat." The guards hesitated but didn't lower their weapons. Behind them the air shimmered again, and a tall regal woman appeared, her armor decorated with golden patterns, her long white hair tied back in a crown braid. Her presence filled the room like a storm. Serene's voice trembled. "Mother?" The Queen of Virion looked at her daughter, alive, unharmed, and a deep, rare relief crossed her face. But when her eyes fell upon Ethan and Lila, that relief turned to shock and disbelief. "What is this?" she demanded, her tone sharp but calm. "A human home? You were found here?" Serene took a step forward. "Yes, I was injured in the crash. They helped me. They saved my life." The Queen's gaze hardened on Ethan. A human dared to touch my daughter?" Ethan met her stare with quiet firmness. "I only did what anyone would do for someone in need." The Queen's guards tensed, but Serene raised her hand sharply. "Enough! He protected me, Mother. Without him, I would not be standing here." Her voice echoed with royal command, silencing even the guards. The Queen studied her daughter's expression, then looked around the simple house. The repaired tools, the small child hiding slightly behind Ethan's leg, the smell of food still lingering in the air. Nothing about this place looked dangerous, yet what unsettled her most wasn't the surroundings. It was the calm in her daughter's eyes. She had never seen that calm before. "Princess Serene," the Queen said quietly, "you must come home now." "This situation has already caused whispers across the fleet." Serene hesitated. "Mother, please." "These humans have done nothing wrong." The Queen turned to Ethan again. "You will not be punished," she said coldly, "but you will forget this ever happened. Do you understand?" Lila's small voice broke the tension. "We don't forget people we care about." The Queen looked down at the little girl, her expression softening slightly. Serene placed a gentle hand on Lila's shoulder. It's all right, she whispered. You are very brave. Then Serene looked back at her mother. I cannot leave without thanking them properly. The Queen frowned. You can thank them from the ship. Serene took a deep breath. No, you don't understand. They didn't just save me. They showed me what it means to feel safe, to feel seen. I was not a princess here. I was simply me. The Queen's face went pale. Serene. The room fell silent. The guards shifted uneasily. Even Ethan, standing still beside his daughter, felt the weight of her words. Serene continued, her voice steady but emotional. The single dad human makes me feel safe, Mother. He and his child showed me kindness with no reason, no reward. Isn't that what true strength is? The Queen's breath caught for a moment. Her eyes flickered with something deep. Old memories, perhaps, of a time before her crown, before her heart turned cold from politics and war. But the guards began murmuring. A princess expressing gratitude to a human, it was unthinkable. It would shake the Virion Council if the story spread. Seeing the growing tension, Ethan stepped forward carefully. Your Majesty, he said respectfully, we don't want trouble. I only did what any parent would do. She was hurt and I couldn't turn away. The Queen studied him again. There was something honest and steady about his tone, no fear, no greed. Just truth, you have a child, she said softly. Ethan nodded. She's my world. The Queen's eyes moved to Lila again. The girl waved shyly, clutching her toy starship. Something about her innocence pierced through the Queen's royal armor. She finally spoke, her tone quiet but heavy. You have done what few have dared, shown compassion across species. For that I am grateful. Serene's eyes filled with relief. Then he will not be punished? The Queen gave a small nod. No, but this must remain unspoken. The world is not yet ready for such. Understanding, Ethan nodded. I understand. Before leaving, Serene turned to Lila and hugged her gently. You are very brave, little one, she said softly. One day the stars will shine brighter for people like you. Lila smiled shyly. Will you come back? Serene's voice trembled. I will try. Then she turned to Ethan. For a moment, neither spoke. Her eyes held a depth that words could not reach. Thank you, she whispered, for showing me kindness when I had nothing. Ethan simply replied, You're always welcome here. As Serene walked toward her ship, the Queen paused beside Ethan. Her voice was lower now, more human than royal. You protected what I hold most dear. I will not forget that. Ethan bowed his head respectfully. Take care of her, Majesty. The Queen hesitated for a brief second, her eyes softening before she followed her daughter into the ship. As the royal fleet rose into the sky, the wind from the engines swept across the valley. Lila held onto her father's hand, watching the silver ships disappear among the clouds. She'll come back, Lila said quietly. Ethan looked at the fading lights. Maybe one day. High above, aboard the royal ship, Serene stood near the window staring down at the blue planet below. The stars reflected in her eyes as she whispered softly, Home isn't always a palace. Sometimes it's a place with laughter and warmth, and a single human who made me feel safe. The Queen, standing behind her, heard those words. Her heart ached quietly. She looked at her daughter and thought of the strange human below who had reminded them both what kindness truly meant. And for the first time in many years, the Queen of Virion didn't look like a ruler. She looked like a mother. The royal palace of Aurelius was silent that morning. The usual music of the floating gardens, the chatter of servants, and the hum of energy crystals were all gone. Only the sound of the Queen's footsteps echoed through the grand halls. Her eyes were tired, her mind still replaying her daughter's words from the day before. The single dad human makes me feel safe. No one had ever made the Queen of Aurelius pale before. She had faced warlords, assassins, and cosmic storms, yet somehow, the idea of her daughter's heart belonging to a human had shaken her to her core. Humans were unpredictable. Brave, yes, but dangerous in their own way. Princess Lyra stood quietly in the garden, staring at the sunrise. The light fell softly on her silver hair and her eyes shimmered with worry. She had not seen Ethan or his daughter for 2 days now. The Queen had ordered the human ship to stay at the outer station, under royal supervision. But Lyra's heart was restless. She missed Ethan's calm voice and the way he treated her not as a princess, but as a person. He never looked at her with fear or awe, only kindness. As Lyra stood lost in thought, a gentle hum in the distance made her turn. A royal transport shuttle descended slowly into the garden. The queen stepped out, her royal guards behind her. "Mother," Lyra whispered, bowing slightly. "Lyra," the queen said in a calm but firm voice. "You will come with me." Lyra followed silently, her heart heavy. She didn't know what to expect. The queen led her to a private chamber. Inside there was no throne, no audience, just a quiet space with large crystal windows and a single table. The queen turned to her daughter. "Lyra, you know how much I love you," she began. "You are the heir to Oralis. One day this empire will be yours to guide. But what you said yesterday about the human, it cannot be ignored." Lyra lowered her head. "I did not mean to cause trouble, Mother. But I spoke the truth." The queen sighed. "Truth or not, you must understand how the council will see this. They already question humanity's presence in our territories. If they believe a royal is attached to one of them, they might think we are weak." Lyra's eyes filled with quiet strength. "Is kindness weakness?" "Ethan saved me, Mother, not because of diplomacy or orders. He did it because he cares. He protects his daughter with the same heart that made him protect me. That is not weakness. That is courage." The queen looked away, unsure how to reply. For a moment she saw her own younger self reflected in her daughter. The same fire, the same compassion she once had before politics and war hardened her. Lyra continued softly. "When I am with him and his little girl, I feel peace. They live simply, yet their hearts are strong. They make me remember what real strength looks like." The queen stood silent for a long moment. Then without a word she turned and walked to the window. Outside the horizon glowed with the golden light of two suns. "I will speak to the human," she finally said. Lyra's heart jumped. "You mean—" The queen raised a hand. "Do not misunderstand me. I only wish to see for myself what kind of man has moved my daughter's heart." Later that day, Ethan stood near the landing bay, helping his daughter Lily pack her small bag. He had decided that if the queen wanted them gone, he would leave without protest. He didn't want to bring trouble to Lyra. But before he could lift the bag, the door opened. Royal guards stepped aside and the Queen of Oralis herself entered the hangar. Ethan straightened. He didn't bow, but he stood respectfully. Lily, sensing the tension, hid behind him. The queen studied the scene. The human man's uniform was simple, slightly worn. His eyes, however, were steady. He looked tired, the kind of tired that came from responsibility, not fear. "You are Ethan," the queen said. "Yes, Your Majesty," he replied. "If this is about leaving, we're already preparing." The queen tilted her head slightly. "You would go so easily?" He smiled faintly. "I'm a father, ma'am. My daughter's safety comes first. I won't stay where we're not wanted." The queen looked down at Lily. The small human child clutched a handmade doll, its hair messy but loved. She peeked up at the tall alien queen and whispered, "We don't mean trouble. We just wanted to help." For the first time in years, something inside the queen softened. She saw no arrogance, no greed, and only honesty. She turned her gaze back to Ethan. "My daughter claims that you made her feel safe," the queen said. "Tell me, why should I believe that a human could protect a royal better than my own guards?" Ethan took a slow breath. "Because I didn't see a royal, Your Majesty. I saw someone in danger. When I saved her, I wasn't thinking of politics or species. I was thinking of my own daughter, what I would want someone to do if it were her. That's all." The queen's eyes stayed on him. His answer was simple, but something about it cut through every royal wall she had built around her heart. She finally said, "Perhaps that is what makes you dangerous. Or perhaps that is what makes you different." Lyra entered quietly then, standing beside her mother. "He is different, Mother," she said softly. "He doesn't want our power. He only wants peace." The queen looked at them both, her daughter and the human, and finally nodded. "Very well," she said. "You may stay until the council meets. But understand, Ethan, that your actions from now on will speak louder than any words." Ethan bowed slightly. "That's fair, Your Majesty." Days passed, and slowly things began to change in the palace. The alien guards who once looked at Ethan with suspicion now nodded politely when he passed. Lily became a small wonder among the royal staff, her laughter echoing through the halls that once felt cold. Even the queen found herself watching the child play with her daughter, a quiet smile forming when she thought no one noticed. One evening, as the twin moons rose over Oralis, the queen stood on her balcony deep in thought. Lyra approached, silent at first. "You were right, Lyra," the Queen said finally. Humans are different. But perhaps that difference is what our people need. Lyra's heart lifted. Then you approve? The Queen turned with a faint smile. I approve of your courage to follow what is true. But remember, love and duty are not enemies only if you keep them balanced. Lyra nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. Weeks later, when the Council of Auralis met, the Queen surprised everyone. Instead of condemning humanity, she spoke in their defense. She told them that humans, though fragile, carried a strength born from compassion, a strength that could bridge worlds. And when the meeting ended, the Queen looked toward her daughter and the human standing beside her and said quietly, Perhaps peace begins not in treaties but in trust. As the royal banners fluttered in the warm alien wind, Lyra looked at Ethan. He smiled, that calm, steady smile she had missed so much. For the first time, the Queen didn't pale. She simply turned toward the horizon and said almost to herself, If a single human can make my daughter feel safe, then maybe the stars have chosen wisely. And under those two suns, the story of a single dad human and an alien princess became the beginning of something far greater. The friendship of two worlds, built not on fear but on love, trust, and the courage to see each other as equals.